Hello and welcome to Elizabeth's Craft Room. Today we're going to make this card, which is an aperture card, and it's the stained glass technique. We're going to do this with a blender pen and various other goodies, so let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make the aperture, and I've got a little tip for you on this as well. This is going to be one of those ask me how I know things, because it was so hard when I did it the wrong way. So I've got my my card base here, which is half a piece of A4 or whatever you use as your standard card base if you're not in Europe. And I've got another piece of card exactly the same size as the front of one of those. And I'm going to just line that up onto there. And I'm going to take one of the oval framelits to make my aperture. It's actually the middle one I'm using. There are 7 altogether. That's the middle one I'm going for. And I'm just going to line that up slightly towards the top of the card. I'm going to pop in a plate and I'm going to run that through the big shot. And the framelits should cut 2 at a time. That's the theory. 1, 2. And you'll see why cutting that at the same time is important when we actually put this card all together. So there we go. Let's pop that to one side. And now I'm going to bring in the vellum. And this little piece of vellum is 3 inches by 4 inches. First thing I'm going to do is to emboss it, to heat emboss it. And I'm using my embossing buddy and rubbing over my vellum first. That takes off any little glitches and little bits of static that might pick up the embossing powder. So I'm going to stamp this flower in Versamark ink, and this is from the stamp set You've Got This. I had no idea how big this background stamp was going to be. When this arrived, I was so impressed. Look, this is the size on the big block of the background stamp. Put 2 together and you actually get a full background, as I'm going to show you in a minute. So first things first, let's ink this up with Versamark, which is our clear sticky ink, and stamp onto the vellum. And then I'm going to bring in my white embossing powder and just pop that all over. And because I've used the embossing buddy, I haven't got any bits that I can see sticking on there. If you do have any, just use a paintbrush and just lift off any little spots that shouldn't be that shouldn't be on the vellum. And then I'm going to heat. Now I've moved the camera in much closer so that you can see what I'm doing for this next bit. Let's hope I can get my hands underneath the camera. I'm using the fantastic new Watermelon Wonder ink, and it's absolutely beautiful. And this is one of our blender pens. They come in a pack of 3, and they've got some liquid inside them which helps you to blend. Now, something I learned when I went to a recent training event with Stampin' Up! Is that by using the blender pens and the inks onto vellum, you can blend very, very well, because the paper is shiny and it really enables you to blend out and get a really good effect. So I'm going to keep going back, and you'll see it kind of builds up, so you won't watch the whole thing because otherwise you get bored. But just to show, I'm going back over that again, and I'm starting where the shade would be. So for me, that's going to be on the bottom of this flower, and then I'm then going to fill in going upwards with a lighter colour. And as you can see, if I put colour behind, you can see you're seeing through that vellum and you're getting a sort of a stained glass technique. Now, depending on the look you want, you can also do this black embossed to get a different sort of effect, but I really like the white embossed look. I'm going to take some cherry cobbler and actually put some even darker colour down at the bottom, and it'll just make it really pop. Now, if I go over the white lines with it faced this way up, it will resist on the white lines and I'll need to wipe it off with a tissue. You can also colour on the other side if you prefer. I actually quite like it because I can bump up against those white lines. Actually makes it quite easy to do the colouring. So just to show you another way of colouring in is to use our markers, and you can do that with this technique, and I'm just going to, again, colour between the lines with these markers. I'm using here the Pear Pizzazz, and I've got the Wild Wasabi, and I'm just going to put again a little bit of shading down at the bottom of the leaves and up there. Takes a moment longer to dry, so you can blot it, which will also take off the bits of ink that are, if you've got any, that are on the shiny bits. Okay, now I'm going to have mine this way round. I want to have a little bit of yellow showing through there, so I'm going to grab a yellow marker, and this is Daffodil Delight, and I'm going to put that and scribble that all over the stamens. Now this is the back now. Flip that over and you can just see it. I don't know how well you can see that coming through the embossed part of the stamens and just giving a little bit of a pop of yellow. Okay, so next bit I'm going to do is some background stamping. And I'm going to stamp, in fact, that's the bit I cut out, so let's just do that. That'll keep my grid paper clean. And I'm going to stamp with, as I say, the background stamp that comes with this stamp set, which is almost like a fabric kind of look to it, like a torn linen sort of look. So I've tapped all over there, and I'm just going to, and I'm going to do it sideways, top. And the bigger the stamp, the harder you press. The smaller the stamp, the lighter you press. And I'm going to go right down to the bottom, and then I shall fill in the middle. So you can layer this up, and it looks quite good. Take that piece out, and then you can see we've got that background effect all round our aperture. The greeting I'm going to use also comes from this stamp set. There are 3 greetings in there, and this is "I'm here for you." Just stamp that on there. So now we're going to put the flower inside. Just see where you're going to line it up, and we're going to take just the smallest amount of glue and put it on the corners. Let's just do that in front of the camera, just a tiny bit. Remember, you're putting this on the front, and then a little tiny bit around the edges. And then the next thing I'm going to do, in fact if I put some green under, you can sort of see, I'm going to use the spreading end, and I'm going to spread that out so you really, it becomes almost invisible on there. We're going to cover this up as you'll see, but it just, if you're sticking vellum, I actually really like using Tombow, using multi-purpose adhesive to stick it. So we're going to bring this back in now, the aperture, line that up where we want the flower, and stick that down. And smooth it out, especially if you've got any wrinkles in your vellum from where you heat embossed it. And that looks good. And then just to neaten it up at the back, that piece that we cut earlier and we cut exactly to match, you can see is going to be in the right place. The way I learned this was actually getting this in the wrong place. What I am going to do is just trim a tiny bit off the edge here so that we haven't got any protruding. Right, so I've just literally taken a slither off the edges to make sure that when the card closes it doesn't poke out anywhere. And some glue around there. And because we lined it up in advance, it makes the job a lot easier. I tried to do this afterwards and it was tricky. Okay. And then this piece closes over, and that's your nice neat bit inside. And let's just take some Versamark, ink up that flower. I'm just going to put it down here in the corner as well. There you go. So as I say, you can put that into the light and you can see through it. Put an electric tea light behind it, not a real candle, and it'll shine through. And say the other effect, if you want to see it from the back, is you get a gentler effect. But obviously you wouldn't then have coloured on this side, you would have coloured on the other side. Do you see what I mean? Okay, thanks for visiting Elizabeth's Craft Room today. I shall be back soon with more goodies from the new Stampin' Up catalogue. If you want to see more, pop over to my shop by going to my blog, Elizabeth's Craft Room, and clicking on Shop Now, and you can have a little peek at all the things that are available. Thanks for visiting today, and look forward to seeing you again soon.